In the pantheon of early 20th century American vaudeville, Ziegfeld Follies, and early American musical theater, many names come easily to mind. Sophie Tucker, Fanny Brice, W.C. Fields, Will Rogers, Eddie Cantor, and Bert Williams. Bert Williams? Arguably the biggest superstar of his time was an all but forgotten man of color named Bert Williams, who by 1920 had the most recordings sold in any single year, was a headliner in any show in which he performed, and was one of the three most highly paid recording artists in the world. Nobody, a play with music by Richard Allen, explores the life and times of this brilliant, controversial, and haunted man. In this process, the play shines a light not only on Williams's personal tragedy, but also the struggle of all people of color who dreamt of becoming not just black entertainers, limited to the world of race-restricted venues, nor, using his own phrase, two-headed goats, used only for their freak show draw in otherwise all-white productions. Williams was a cultured, articulate, creative artist. He felt forced to stoop to the lowest, most degrading representation of the black experience in America so that not only might he find personal success, but that he could also become a positive influence for future artists of color in American theater. Born in Antigua in 1875, at the age of 10, Bert Williams moved with his family first to New York City and then to Riverside, California, where he graduated from high school. He traveled north to San Francisco, where he hoped to study engineering at Stanford University. Unable to pay for his education, he turned to the world of black entertainment, joining a minstrel company known as the Mastodon Minstrels, which performed in lumber and mining camps throughout the West. In San Francisco, 1893, he met George Walker, and the two began a 16-year collaboration that ended only with Walker's fatal illness in 1909. George Walker, born in Lawrence, Kansas in 1873, began his career in a medicine show using the stage name Nash Walker. He moved on to touring black minstrel shows, ending up in San Francisco in 1893. Williams and Walker developed a two-man song, dance, and comedy act which met with only modest success. So they felt forced to don the burnt cork, caricatured blackface makeup popularized in white minstrel shows. Walker assumed the role of the strutting, well-dressed dandy, and Williams became the dull-witted, slow of speech and movement funny man. They had become the two real coons. By the opening of their greatest early success, Sons of Ham in 1900, they had begun to move away from the racist stereotypes of white minstrel shows of the past toward what they felt was a more universal, human form of comedy. Williams and Walker went on to create and headline in the first of a series of all-black Broadway musicals, In Dahomey, thus unlocking doors to writers, composers, and performers of color for the first time. The show moved on to London, where, after a Royal Command performance, it had a 7-month run in both England and Paris. In all, it played over 1,000 performances at home and abroad, a giant hit in its time. When George Walker could no longer perform because of his final illness, Bert Williams became a solo act, starring in the Ziegfeld Follies for over a decade, once again opening doors for those that followed. Although his star became somewhat diminished, by 1922 he was still able to keep a show running by sheer dint of his name on the marquee. In Richard Allen's Nobody, we meet not only Williams and Walker, but also their wives and other influential theatrical figures and performers of the day. The play poses difficult questions about both George Walker and Bert Williams, their lives and artistic choices. And as Williams was haunted throughout his life, we too feel the presence of the minstrel characters of Mr. Bones and Mr. Tambo. Nobody reveals an all but forgotten and vital part of American theater history, and more importantly, the painful road traveled by men and women of color in their efforts to work, live, and express themselves with dignity. Join us on Sunday, May 18th at 10:30 a.m. for a live reading of this provocative new work. Tickets are available at the ASF box office.